Diddy's son, Christian, aka King Combs, is now being sued, just like his father is.
The walls of fame and fortune are crumbling around Sean Diddy Combs, and now his own son, Christian King Combs, has shockingly stepped into the chaos, turning himself in following an explosive FBI raid that has left Hollywood and hip-hop fans reeling. Once the golden heirs to an empire built on beats, business, and bold ambition, the Combs family now faces an avalanche of legal troubles that threatens not just their wealth, but their legacy. The once glittering kingdom that symbolized the American dream is now under siege, revealing a hidden world fueled by fear, secrecy, and alleged criminal acts. The raid on Diddy's lavish Los Angeles mansion was nothing short of cinematic. Helicopters hovered overhead, armored agents stormed through the sprawling estate's ornate gates, and the grand halls that once hosted A-list parties turned into crime scenes. Christian and his brother Justin, once paparazzi favorites, were thrust against walls, handcuffed in full view of the cameras. The footage, raw and unfiltered, quickly went viral, a stark contrast to the polished image the Combs family had, carefully curated for decades. Inside the mansion, safes were cracked open, closets emptied, personal effects tossed about like the aftermath of a hurricane. Among the chaos, boxes of ammunition, luxury items, and, most disturbingly, 3 AR-15 rifles with their serial numbers deliberately defaced. Even as Diddy's high-powered attorneys decry the raid as a witch hunt, the evidence paints a far more sinister picture. Prosecutors allege that Diddy's empire was not just about music and business, but about coercion, intimidation, and exploitation on a scale that rivals organized crime syndicates. Allegations of human trafficking, forced labor, and orchestrated.
The Daily Mail now reporting that Hilton has said both Christian and Justin have hired attorney Jeffrey Lichtman. Now, let me explain this to you. This is a trial attorney that has represented some very famous, maybe infamous defendants. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, John Gotti Jr., fellow rappers The Game, Fat Joe. Hilton says Lichtman will be investigating the use of force involved in the raid. Okay, we have a major issue leading up to Sean Combs' racketeering, sex trafficking, prostitution trial scheduled to begin May 5th. Actually, it is so significant that not only could it change the course of this whole case, but I wonder if we're dealing with a situation that could actually delay this trial. So if you've been following our coverage here on Sidebar, you know there has been a whole lot of back and forth between Combs' defense counsel and prosecutors about who's going to testify at this upcoming trial, particularly the alleged victims, and when the prosecutors have to disclose the identities of these individuals. Well, it is that issue that has now raised up again, and this is a monumental potential problem.
One of the things about testifying in a case is the jury isn't just listening. They are looking. They are looking at facial expressions, body language,
reactions,
hesitation, reactions, all of that. And, if they, put them in a different room and blur their face, that opens the door, if Diddy gets convicted, to an appeal.
So the other option would be to clear the court. But the media is still going to, you can't not have the media in.
Freak-offs, elaborate, multi-day drug-fueled parties involving non-consensual acts, now dominate the headlines. Insiders describe a deeply disturbing pattern. Lavish events that masked horrific abuse under the veneer of luxury, fame, and exclusivity. Christian Combs, once seen as the fresh-faced future of bad boy entertainment, now finds himself entangled in his own web of controversy. Accused of sexual assault at a yacht party in late 2022.
Clearly a very different sight than we're used to seeing, but there you see some of the people that were inside that mansion at the time of the raid. They are being talked to by investigators, by people from the Department of Homeland Security. I could see they're getting their pictures taken as well. So maybe they don't know who, they're looking for or who they have in front of them at this point. But again, part of the process of gathering information as to who in particular was on the grounds at the time that they made entry into during this raid.
While the raids have drawn criticism from Diddy's camp over the treatment of his sons and employees, Schmidt says they were treated just the same as everyone else.
You hit the nail on the head. They're treating it like any other case. I've had cases where we had to make entry into very large estates or large places. you can kind of go back to the way the FBI did the Trump raid. It was the same kind of circumstances, a huge property. They don't know how many people are inside that property. Their job is to get in, get it under control, and get everybody out, and to do it in the safest manner. So to be specific, I don't think there was any other way to do this, just based upon the fact that the property was so big.
Multiple safes broken into, drawers ripped open, closets ransacked, boxes of gun ammo and Grammy Awards. New images from TMZ show inside Diddy's ransacked Beverly Hills mansion during the coast-to-coast raids where no arrests were made.
People in the home are traditionally detained during raids, so they don't flee, and so they don't destroy evidence.
The rapper's attorney calls it a witch hunt with an excessive show of force and hostility that led to a premature rush to judgment, adding Diddy will continue to fight every single day to clear his name.
They don't execute these types of search warrants until they believe they have an ironclad case.
New surveillance video shows Combs being taken into custody in a Manhattan hotel last week. Our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Kotursky, is at the scene of his arrest. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning to you, Robin. This is the hotel where Sean Combs was arrested a week ago. You can now see how that arrest went down. This morning, watch how federal agents took Sean Diddy Combs into custody. He's seen in this video entering the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan with others when agents from Homeland Security Investigations approach and separate him. They place Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs.
Christian allegedly targeted a woman working the event, pursuing her relentlessly despite repeated protests. The lawsuit even claims to have chilling audio evidence of her pleading with him to stop. This scandal emerges just as Christian was attempting to rehabilitate his image following a DUI arrest that could have seen him behind bars, a case he narrowly avoided with a plea deal.
Justin Combs' mom released a statement along with the video slamming the federal agents for the way they handled the raid. The statement reads, quote, "The overzealous and overtly militarized force used against my sons Justin and Christian is deplorable. If these were the sons of a non-black celebrity, they would have not been handled with the same aggression. The attempt to humiliate and terrorize these innocent young black men is despicable. Enough is enough. Did Justin need several laser beams from firearms pointed at his chest? Did Christian need a gun pointed at the back of his head while he was handcuffed? How many times have we seen young unarmed black men not make it out of these types of situations alive? My son's attorney, Jeffrey Lichtman, is investigating the excessive use of force, which was unnecessary and certainly not required by this search warrant. We will fight for justice utilizing every imaginable resource. I'm not with the propaganda." Justin Combs' mom, Misa Hilton, isn't the only one criticizing the raids for excessive use of force. Diddy's friend and Grammy Award-winning producer Stephen Jordan, better known as Stevie J, told a reporter with Fox 5 New York he was at Diddy's home when the feds raided the mansion. Stevie J referred to the incident as traumatizing. In the interview, he said he'd never had 50 laser dots pointed toward his shirt, and he felt like agents were going to kill someone. Stevie J, Justin, and Christian Combs were not arrested or charged following the raids, and Diddy was not near his LA mansion at the time of the raid. Instead, he was reportedly attempting to board his private plane to fly to the Bahamas for spring break with his twin daughters.
Federal agents searching Sean Diddy Combs' properties in Los Angeles and Miami they found guns.
We got Jasmine Monroe here. Has got that story a little bit more in Florida Minute. Hey, Jasmine.
Hey, good morning to both of you. That's right. So according to an NBC News report, which was cited by 3 sources familiar to this matter, it is not clear what type of guns were found or who owned these guns. The source familiar with the matter says that Combs is a subject to a federal criminal investigation. Now, his attorney says that the agent searches on Monday were, quote, a gross overuse of military level force. He says that Combs is innocent and will fight to clear his name.
His attorney calling it a witch hunt, telling ABC News there was a gross overuse of military-level force as search warrants were executed at Mr. Combs' residences. Those search warrants executed by dozens of Homeland Security investigators seizing multiple electronic devices. Agents descending on his Holmby Hills mansion in fatigues, briefly detaining 2 of Combs' adult sons, seen here wearing handcuffs. His attorney saying there is no excuse for the excessive show of force and hostility exhibited by authorities or the way his children and employees were
Probation and mandatory counseling. Meanwhile, Justin Combs, once celebrated as the good son with a college football scholarship and media-savvy charm, isn't immune to controversy either. Reports accuse him of throwing wild, unauthorized parties at luxury rental properties.
Federal agents are searching the house of Sean Diddy Combs here in Los Angeles, looking for what they believe is evidence that will help them build a case against the rapper. Agents took no chances when they entered that property today, going in with guns drawn. They also detained 2 people while that raid took place. It's not just this property here in Los Angeles. There is also another house in Miami that was also being searched. It's been reported that this is related to a trafficking and sexual assault investigation.
Given the graphic testimony that the statutory victims will collectively give about years' worth of beatings, fueled coercive sex marathons, and multiple rapes, these are the people who will testify as part of the criminal charges, the non-statutory victims' testimony, meaning the people who would testify as to this uncharged conduct, will be no more inflammatory than the evidence that the jury will already have before it at this trial. Accordingly, the highly probative proffered testimony is not unduly prejudicial under Rule 403, which we discussed before.
Allegedly, Diddy was doing other things with this victim too that they didn't know about, and now they have enough evidence to bring this.
So those charges are sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution, which is interesting because you all have this great new documentary out talking about Diddy's defense, and the mock jury in that were uncomfortable with some of these ideas of sex trafficking and prostitution, and this concept of whether this really was consensual, and whether they seem to think, some of them, that the government was going too far by suggesting sex trafficking.
And here they are adding more of those charges.
I'm a savage. Whatever I want, I'm going to get. Whatever I want, I have to get.
This is Sean Combs, aka Diddy, and he was just sued by one of his producers who alleges SA and trafficking. But it's not the first time Diddy's been accused of abuse, and people have been speaking out against him for years. Somehow, though, his empire remains intact.
Where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose. For the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and yeah, he signed the Usher. Who signed the Usher? I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. My brother right here from day one, we used to wake up and, pause, but like that's how. I mean, back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother.
But you were 13. What were you saying?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Allegedly deceiving homeowners about small gatherings that spiraled into chaotic ragers with hundreds of guests, causing tens of thousands of dollars in damages. Combined, the brothers' reckless behavior hints at a deeper generational rot, the toxic pressures of privilege, entitlement, and the need to live up to a towering family legacy. And then there's the growing anger over how the raids were conducted. Misa Hilton, the mother of Diddy's sons, released a scathing statement condemning the FBI
from the smallest slip-up.
Diddy's son, Christian, a.k.a. King Combs, is now being sued, just like his father is. A woman filed a lawsuit against King, alleging that in late 2022, right before New Year's Eve, King assaulted her on a yacht, specifically sexually assaulted. There was a party going on, she was working it, and she claims that he started to hone in on her, groping her, trying to kiss her. She claims that she tried pushing him off of him, telling her that she didn't want it, and she claims that he continued pressing on and pressing on. In her lawsuit, she actually claims to have audio recordings of this, and she includes transcripts of all of this, and in the transcripts, if they're believed to be true, they do in fact show her trying to tell Christian, hey, leave me alone, I don't want this, leave me alone. Eventually, she claims she got away from Christian. He kept hounding her. He told her, hey, take me to a place I can sleep on the yacht. She took him to a theater room, and this woman claims that's when he continued to try and sexually assault her, trying to force her to give him oral sex.
Diddy's 29-year-old son has avoided jail time after taking a plea deal in his DUI case, RadarOnline.com has learned. Justin Combs landed 3 years of probation and was ordered to complete an alcohol education program after pleading no contest to having a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or higher. Combs' charge of driving under the influence was dismissed. According to court documents obtained by The Blast, Diddy's son must enroll and participate in and successfully complete a 3-month licensed first offender alcohol and other drug education and counseling program in addition to his 3 years of summary probation. As RadarOnline.com exclusively reported, Justin was hit with 2 misdemeanor charges for driving under the influence and having a blood alcohol content, BAC, higher than 0.08% or more after being arrested for DUI on June 4th.
Hey man, I wanted to ask you, man, you must be so sick and tired of this Nepo baby debate that everyone's having. Everyone's coming for kids of famous people and nepotism.
Yeah.
You must be so sick and tired of that debate.
Not really. You know, heavy is the head that wears the crown, so we got a big legacy to fill up too.
Oh, I love that.
And right now, bad boy, we #1. Let's go, baby.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Do you feel at all any sort of way about benefiting from your dad's success, or it just, life is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
You could be born good looking or ugly. You could be born smart or
Yeah.
or poor or rich or anything.
Yep.
How do you
be you.
Have you guys heard the rumor about Diddy's sons causing more problems? Honestly, I'm inclined to believe it. Can someone please explain this to me? Diddy's son is here throwing parties while his dad is behind bars. For the same reason. Is that gullibility, insanity, or what? I mean, didn't Justin Combs just get denied rentals for his parties because of the drama surrounding his dad? Revisit that claim, tell me nothing is wrong with it, and I won't take y'all seriously. Here's what the report states. An anonymous broker claimed Justin would promise small gatherings, but instead throw massive parties that left rental homes in disarray. He would say, I'm having 20 people over, but there would be 200. And then they would
over-militarized force, pointing out the racial double standard in how her sons were treated compared to children of white celebrities. Enough is EA. Enough, she declared, describing how Justin had laser dots from firearms aimed at his chest while Christian had a gun pressed to the back of his head, all while fully cooperating with authorities. Grammy-winning producer Stevie J, a close associate of Diddy, backed up the claims, calling the raid traumatizing and saying he feared someone would be killed. But beyond the fury and finger-pointing lies,
the case against Sean Combs might as well just be called the freak-offs. These allegedly illegal freak-offs. It's all about the freak-offs in one way, shape, or form.
Freak-offs?
Freak-offs.
Freak-offs. Freak-offs.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
Prosecutors say that these were elaborately produced events, bringing lighting in, cameras, linens.
Prosecutors said he would masturbate during these freak-offs, and women had no choice.
Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, pleasured himself during, and often electronically recorded.
I don't think that this looks good for Diddy at all. I think that the feds are not playing. I think that adding these charges a month before trial is set to begin is very telling. I'm afraid to see what else is going to come out during trial, and I'm curious to see who the second victim is.
Yeah, we don't know how the government's going to deal with this, by the way, because they have not revealed the identities. Do they clear the court so that the testimony is not seen by the public, or are they going to reveal who the victims are?
My name is Tania Wallace. I am a singer-songwriter, and I was at I believe to be one of P. Diddy's freak-offs. 2018, I went to this freak-off. I looked to the right of me, and in the corner, I'm looking like, are those midgets? Because people were it's people over them. Like, it's people trying to hide what they're doing. They're all huddled up. So I'm like, what is that? But no, they weren't. They were little people. I don't want to say too much. They were little people. So use your common sense. Dressed up like little Harajuku Barbies, red lipstick, looking like real sexy, revealing like cute. So I'm like, what the hell?
Deeper, more unsettling truth. The Combs empire was already teetering on a fault line of allegations long before the feds came knocking. Whispers of violence, manipulation, and darker secrets have circulated for years. Stories of young artists being preyed upon, insiders too afraid to speak, and a culture of silence enforced through fear and loyalty. Now, with multiple properties searched, electronic devices seized, and witnesses stepping forward, it seems the floodgates have finally broken open. The question that now looms over...
As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there.
Taking a closer look at all that evidence, Diddy had 3 AR-15s seized during the federal raids that had been defaced. What do you think that would look like, though? Because weapons obviously are very dangerous. We don't want them to go off. How is that collected?
Well, they typically clear the weapon, right? They're going to go ahead and take the cartridge out of it and make sure that there are no rounds, obviously, in the chamber, and then disassemble it to be taken back as evidence. What's interesting is the AR-15s that they found. Some people have AR-15s. It's legal in some places, but they found that the serial number was scraped off of them. And that I thought was interesting because I don't know if Diddy didn't want those traceable to him, or if he had received them on the black market.
Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And you're sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you notice to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in and make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman.
But you heard about the guns they found at Diddy house with no serial numbers?
I think that's going to be hard to prove that they're his weapons. They're going to have to prove that they was his weapons because he had other grown people living in there. And plus, that house, I believe, was in a corporation name. So they're going to have to get maids, butlers, cleaning people, or somebody that's in that house to have a daily contact to say that was his room that they found those weapons in. And then the weapons was...
For Hollywood is not just whether Diddy will go down, it's how much of the industry will fall. With him, the stakes are enormous. If prosecutors can prove the allegations, it could expose a tangled network of enablers, beneficiaries, and accomplices who helped maintain the illusion for so long. Already, rumors swirl about names big and small who might be dragged into the spotlight next. And what of the victims? As the government battles Diddy's defense team over the
breaking point.
I'm going to take your souls. We have the power. We decide what's hot. If we don't go, nobody goes. If we don't support, nobody supports. We control what's cool. We control what's hot. We control what your kids listen to, what they dance to. We control what's in video games. We control how they wear their pants, sag their pants. We control everything.
Well, first, I want to say to this young man, before somebody take his head off, because see, that's that new school bull crap that these kids out here, they easy to fly out their mouth with that. You don't invite a man to your private. You don't invite a man to your private unless you doing the Diddy. If 2 men lay down, how many homos get up? Let me tell you, young man, 2 of them. You understand? So don't invite a man to your private because that man will see you and take your head off.
Diddy's son, Justin, I heard he got in contact with you.
Yeah, he called me on Instagram. So I'm like, what is this? So I pick up, I'm like, what's that? He was like, man, I don't appreciate what you're doing to my daddy, bro. Well, he was talking gangster to me. I'm gonna be honest with you. And I had to let him know I would beat the shit out of his leg. But at the end of the day, I seen Justin when he was a little boy, right? So I really ain't feel no way. I know at the end of the day he was hurt, but I had to let him know he was a little boy to me. And you are enjoying the fruits of your labor, and part of the fruits of your labor that your little sprout ass is enjoying is off the band as well. So, shut up. Shut your ass up and just go some well.
Those wasn't my dad's, those was mine. All they gonna get is a 3 to 5. 85%.
But you being somebody, right, that was cool with Diddy at one point, you don't feel a little bit bad for him?
My man, how do you feel sorry for a man that had everything material that any man could ever want. How do you feel sorry for a man could go any place any man would want to travel in the world?
Right to reveal witness identities, survivor stories are beginning to emerge, heartbreaking, raw, and terrifying. Stories of coercion masked as opportunity, of parties that turned into nightmares, of promises that ended in abuse. If even a fraction of these claims are proven true, the cultural reckoning will be seismic. For now, Christian Combs turning himself in marks a dramatic turning point. It's a rare moment where the child of privilege, power, and fame faces the consequences of a world gone terribly wrong. It's also a brutal reminder that no matter how...
I'm Benny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the man who once ruled the world of commercial hip-hop, musician and mogul Sean Puffy P. Diddy Combs. Now he's a federal defendant facing many decades behind bars. Here's the story. In a dramatic legal battle, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs faces a series of grave federal charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and forced labor. The indictment alleges that from 2009 to 2024, Combs orchestrated a criminal enterprise exploiting his vast business empire to engage in these illicit activities. Prosecutors contend that Combs coerced individuals into non-consensual sexual acts and forced labor, utilizing threats, violence, and manipulation.
I'm going to start with one of the defense's filings from yesterday, and I want you to listen to this explosive opening paragraph. Quote, after months of refusing to disclose the identity of alleged victims and just 60 days before trial, the government suddenly announced that it intended to shore up its case with evidence of redacted, uncharged, and uncorroborated crimes, including redacted, again, it's all blacked out, purported instances of sexual assault, all but one of which supposedly occurred decades ago. These incendiary allegations are substantially more serious than the charged offenses, and if admitted, would make it impossible for Mr. Combs to receive a fair trial. Federal prosecutors want to call a key expert witness to the stand at Sean Combs' upcoming criminal trial planned to start next month. You know, the case where he's facing racketeering, prostitution, and sex trafficking charges. But the defense says no. She should not be allowed to testify. And there is a lot about this. So who is this person? We're talking about Dr. Dawn M. Hughes. Now, there is a chance you might be saying, why do I know that name? Why does that sound so familiar? Well, go back 3 years ago. Can't believe it's been 3 years, but you go back 3 years ago, and you remember the defamation trial of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard back in Virginia? Well, she was called by the actress to opine on her mental health and whether or not Amber Heard was exhibiting signs of, in fact, being abused, because Heard had been sued by Depp for falsely accusing him of abusing her.
The battleground here will be consent. In this whole case, the battleground will be consent. And quite frankly, you know, it sounds like at the time people were consenting. It's not sex trafficking if everyone wants to be there. Okay? When you think of sex trafficking, you have connotations of people being sold for sex. I mean, that's what you think of as sex trafficking, normally minors. You're not going to get that here. And what I've been told is that the defense has countless written communications that will negate any lack of consent in this case, that will negate any coercion in this case. It's going to be hard for them to say, yeah, I wrote those things, but I was just scared and I wrote that I was happy to come.
How high you rise, no dynasty is immune from collapse when built on a foundation of lies. The fall of Diddy, once a titan who declared he could make or break careers at will, could become one of the most spectacular implosions in entertainment history. A story of ambition, arrogance, and unchecked power unraveling in real time, with every headline.
If I'm his attorneys, I'm definitely trying to at least get the best plea deal possible to present to Diddy. At the end of the day, it's going to be Diddy's decision. The attorneys, they're going to go home at the end of the night. Diddy, is he going to go home or is he going to stay in prison? I think they have to do it. I don't know if he's ordered them to negotiate that or not. Now, what would it look like? It seems like the government on its face, they're really going after Diddy. He is persona non grata, if you will. But behind closed doors, are they softening their stance a little bit?
From hosting now infamous parties to facing a mountain of legal peril, Sean Diddy Combs' fall from grace all culminated in last week's sex trafficking arrest. And while to some his arrest may have come as a shock, for others it may have been a long time coming. But Diddy's recent charges aren't the first controversies the Bad Boy founder has faced over the years. Several other controversies have also plagued the music mogul, as he's had a history of alleged violence, even stemming back to the early 90s.
For decades, Diddy influenced pop culture as a producer, rapper, record executive, and business mogul. Now, a federal investigation into sex trafficking allegations and a series of civil lawsuits alleging rape and sexual assault leave Diddy's legacy in limbo. Sean Combs emerged on the entertainment scene in the early 1990s as an intern at Uptown Records. In 1993, after losing his job at Uptown, Combs launched Bad Boy Records, signing big artists including the notorious B.I.G.
Biggie is going down in history as one of the greatest MCs of all time. Diddy was heavily responsible for melding, let's say, R&B with hip-hop and putting rap break beats underneath R&B songs to make that like a genre on its own in the early 90s.
Even though I did them.
In the coming days, weeks, and months, more details are sure to emerge. New evidence will be examined, more witnesses will speak out, and the public will get a closer look at the human side of this massive scandal. Prepare for shocking twists, explosive revelations, and relentless pursuits that promise to upend everything we thought we knew. Every uncovered secret deepens the intrigue, fueling a narrative that refuses to let go of your attention.
Everybody's saying Cassie can't testify because she signed a non-disclosure agreement in the settlement with Diddy. So take it away.
Well, when prosecutors subpoena you and require you to testify, you're going to testify. That's different. Non-disclosure agreement. All right, you can't go and tell the public what happened and get paid for your story. So she's coming out and saying who she is because she's sympathetic. Who doesn't look at that video and say, oh my goodness, who is that poor victim who he's beating? So I don't know that it shows courage. I think that she's getting the publicity that goes along with being a true victim of a very violent offense.
And adding another crack to the once indestructible facade. And as the legal battles rage on, as more hidden truths surface, and as more players are pulled into the vortex, one thing remains certain. The House of Combs is no longer standing tall. It's crumbling fast. And there's no telling who will be buried in the rubble next. The question that now looms over Hollywood is not just whether Diddy will go down, it's how much of the industry will fall with him. This isn't just a trial about one man's alleged crimes. It's a reckoning decades in the making. The stakes are enormous. If prosecutors can prove the allegations, it could expose a tangled network of enablers, beneficiaries, and accomplices who helped maintain the illusion of glamour, success, and power for so long. Studio executives, managers, agents, and even fellow artists, some knowingly, others willfully blind, could find themselves dragged into the harsh light of public scrutiny. Already, whispers echo down the corridors of power. Rumors swirl about names big and small, A-listers and insiders alike, who might soon be called to account. The world that once cheered Diddy's every move is suddenly whispering about long-forgotten deals, private parties, and sealed settlements. Old friends are distancing themselves. Former protégés like Usher and Mary J. Blige, whose careers were touched by Diddy's magic, are now grappling with the fallout. Even icons like Jay-Z, who once praised Diddy's empire-building hustle, are said to be treading carefully, weighing loyalty against self-preservation. It is a slow-motion collapse of a gilded circle that once seemed untouchable. And what of the victims? As the government battles Diddy's formidable defense team over the right to reveal witness identities, survivor stories are beginning to surface. Heartbreaking, raw, and terrifying. Young women who once thought they were walking into the opportunity of a lifetime instead found themselves trapped in nightmares they couldn't escape. Promises of fame, record deals, modeling contracts, and lavish lifestyles were often twisted into tools of manipulation. Behind the velvet ropes and champagne toasts, coercion lurked. Some were silenced with NDAs and payouts. Others simply vanished. From the industry, their dreams and reputations shattered. If even a fraction of these claims are proven true, the cultural reckoning will be seismic. This isn't just about Diddy. It's about a system that fed on ambition, naivety, and desperation. A system that wrapped exploitation in glitter and sold it as the price of admission. For now, Christian Combs turning himself in marks a dramatic turning point. The son of a hip-hop titan, once groomed to inherit a dynasty, now stands before the world not as a rising star, but as a symbol of how deep the cracks run. It's a rare, sobering moment where the child of privilege, power, and fame must face the consequences of a world gone terribly wrong. The shimmering facade of Bad Boy Records, once the epitome of swagger and success, now looks like a crumbling relic of an era built on illusion and unchecked excess. It's also a brutal reminder that no matter how high you rise, no dynasty is immune from collapse when it's built on a foundation of lies, intimidation, and exploitation. For the younger Combs generation, Christian and Justin, the sins of the father may prove an unbearable burden. Their once inevitable path to celebrity dominance has been replaced by courtroom appearances, whispered scandals, and a brutal education in public disgrace. The fall of Diddy, once a titan who declared he could make or break careers at will, could become one of the most spectacular implosions in entertainment history. More than a scandal, it is a parable of ambition unchecked by conscience, of dreams twisted into weapons, of fame wielded like a cudgel. Every headline, every court document, every new accusation adds another crack to the once indestructible facade, making the empire look less like a fortress and more like a house of cards swaying in the storm. And as the legal battles rage on, as hidden truths surface and long-silenced voices rise, the ripple effects are already starting to spread. Other moguls are lawyering up. Other victims are finding their courage. Civil suits are quietly being prepared behind the scenes. Journalists, emboldened by the moment, are chasing leads that once seemed too dangerous to touch. The vultures of scandal, sensing blood in the water, are circling. And they aren't just circling Diddy. There's no telling who will be buried in the rubble next. For the Combs family, for the music industry, and for the culture that once exalted him as a king, the era of looking the other way is over. The reckoning has begun, and there's no escaping it now.